Breaking news, 5 people have been arrested in connection with the death of Matthew Perry. Before I break this down, don't forget to like, subscribe, or become a member for exclusive content. Okay, this story has shaken the entire world, not just Hollywood. Matthew Perry was such a beloved actor to all of us, but why are people being arrested in connection with his death if it was an overdose? Well, let's break it down. So, 5 people were arrested, and this was announced during a press conference in Los Angeles a few hours ago. There was an ongoing federal investigation and local as well in terms of who supplied Matthew Perry these drugs, why they were supplying them, and who were they? Were they doctors? Were they friends? And all of this matters for a reason. So let's talk about who was arrested. Among those arrested, 2 medical doctors, and I'm going to completely botch their names, Dr. Salvatore Plasencia and Dr. Mark Chavez. And also arrested was Matthew Perry's assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa. And again, I apologize if I mispronounce those words. And then his a drug dealer that he knew pretty well, Eric Fleming, who was linked to somebody called the Ketamine Queen of Los Angeles, and their real name was Jasveen Sagha. So these 5 individuals are accused of forming this network responsible for supplying large quantities of ketamine, which is a potent and controlled substance, to Perry and others. It's not just him. So United States Attorney Martin Estrada shed light on this entire case and reiterated that Matthew Perry was found lifeless in his hot tub on October 28th, 2023, with the autopsy confirming acute ketamine effects as the cause of death, which was exacerbated by drowning, coronary artery disease, and use of other medications that he was taking that were typically prescribed for opioid addictions. So he really didn't mince words here about these 5 defendants. He said that they had this sinister operation going, and there were even text messages between some of them referring to Matthew Perry as a moron and just expressing eagerness to trick him into letting them become his main supplier, whether he needed it or not, or whether he liked it or not. So authorities absolutely believe that this network played a direct role in Matthew Perry's tragic relapse into addiction last fall with this insane supply of ketamine. And this all happened within 2 months leading up to his death. I want to make that clear as well. They completely intensified what he was doing with this drug, and it has been reported that his assistant was the one that was directly shooting it into him, the day that he passed away. So again, this is a developing story. I'm going to play the press conference right now to give you guys an idea of what was said there.
My name is Martin Estrada. I'm the United States Attorney based in Los Angeles. We're here today with our law enforcement partners to announce federal criminal charges related to the death of the actor Matthew Perry. Following Mr. Perry's death in October of last year, law enforcement, my office, and our partners represented on this stage began an in-depth, wide-ranging investigation. That investigation has revealed a broad, underground criminal network responsible for distributing large quantities of ketamine to Mr. Perry and others. This network included a live-in assistant, various go-betweens, 2 medical doctors, and a major source of drug supply known as, quote, the Ketamine Queen. We charged 5 defendants in this matter. These defendants took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction issues to enrich themselves. They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew what they were doing was risking great danger to Mr. Perry, but they did it anyways. In the end, these defendants were more interested in profiting off Mr. Perry than caring for his well-being. I'm going to talk about the indictment, the allegations, and the charges in more detail. On October 28, 2023, Mr. Perry was found deceased in his home. An autopsy was conducted following his death. That autopsy showed that he had died due to the acute effects of ketamine. Ketamine is a controlled substance. It has some legitimate uses, but it is also used illegally. It is used by people seeking to disassociate from reality. It can cause serious health effects, serious health problems, including loss of consciousness, including spikes in blood pressure, and including respiratory issues that can deprive the brain of oxygen. For that reason, it is a drug that must be administered by medical professionals, and the patient must be monitored closely. That did not occur here. This investigation focused on who supplied the ketamine to Mr. Perry. As many of you know, Mr. Perry struggled with addiction in the past. On many occasions, he sought help for his addiction issues. The investigation revealed that in the fall of 2023, Mr. Perry fell back into addiction, and these defendants took advantage to profit for themselves. The two lead defendants in this case are defendants Salvador Plasencia and defendant Jasvine Sanya.
I botched those names.
First, I'll talk about defendant Plasencia. Defendant Plasencia was a medical doctor. He worked with another medical doctor, defendant Mark Chavez, to obtain ketamine. He then worked with Mr. Perry's live-in assistant, defendant Kenneth Iwamasa, to distribute that ketamine to Mr. Perry. Over 2 months, from September to October 2023, they distributed approximately 20 vials of ketamine to Mr. Perry in exchange for $55,000 in cash.
What?
Defendant Plasencia saw this as an opportunity to profit off of Mr. Perry. He wrote in a text message in September 2023, quote,
Okay, I have to stop this for a minute. And also because this is a 20-minute press conference, 20 vials of ketamine, over $50,000. Have you heard enough? That's so crazy. I'll play a little bit more, but what? I'm not going to play the full 20 minutes. I mean, maybe I'll speed it up, but let's see what we got here.
I wonder how much this moron will pay.
Oh.
He also stated in text messages that he wanted to be Mr. Perry's sole source of supply. He wrote in a text message that he wanted to be Mr. Perry's, quote, go-to for drugs. As a doctor, defendant Plasencia knew full well the danger of what he was doing. In fact, on one occasion, he injected Mr. Perry with ketamine, and he saw Mr. Perry freeze up and his blood pressure spike. Despite that, he left additional vials of ketamine for defendant Iwamasa to administer to Mr. Perry. Of course, defendant Iwamasa had no medical training to speak of. Defendant Plasencia knew what he was doing was harming Mr. Perry. He had spoken to another patient in mid-October 2023, and he told that patient that Mr. Perry was spiraling out of control with his addiction. Nonetheless, defendant Plasencia continued to offer ketamine to Mr. Perry.
Horrible.
Likewise,
Disgusting.
defendant Sanya knew what she was doing was harming defendants and also Mr. Perry. She took advantage of Mr. Perry by selling large amounts of ketamine to Mr. Perry over a 2-week period in October of 2023. She sold approximately 50 vials of ketamine for approximately $11,000 in cash.
Oh, wow.
She worked with a broker, defendant Eric Fleming, and also the live-in assistant, defendant Iwamasa, to distribute this ketamine. Sanya and the broker, defendant Fleming, saw this as an opportunity to profit off of Mr. Perry.
Okay. So you guys, okay, sorry, I had to just keep that last part in as I was listening. He said I wouldn't do it unless there was a chance of me making some money. All these people, all they cared about was money. And the fact that Matthew Perry had a lot of it, they did not care that he was trying to be sober. Nope, not at all. So 20 vials from these two doctors and then 11 vials from the ketamine queen. That's crazy. And he spent over $60,000. And again, if you heard, this was in a matter of 2 months. So there are people saying, well, why don't you arrest every single drug dealer that gives drugs and, to people who end up overdosing? I mean, yeah, I agree. I think this one was essentially looked into because Matthew Perry's father is Keith Morrison from Dateline. And he was like, what the hell? And he obviously has power. And hopefully they will, save other lives from these dangerous doctors and this dangerous ketamine queen. But this is a developing story. I'll be sure to keep everyone posted. Thank you so much for watching Pop Crime TV.